Welcome back, Warriors, to another Battlefield 2042 video. I'm your commanding officer, Major Doodleman149, and today's briefing will be taking a look at the latest intel that just dropped from HQ regarding the next phase of this operation, Operation New Dawn. We'll be looking over the briefing together before breaking it down into the important details you'll need to note. Someone in the back, quick, dim the lights.
So long we were lost in darkness and despair. But we united, rose from the ashes and built a better world. Our new dawn is here. Are you ready?
The first thing I'm sure you noticed, soldier, was that this briefing showcased a battlefield we have not yet visited during this conflict. It does, however, appear to bear a resemblance to a Russian tank factory I was deployed to several decades ago. You can see the dilapidated, broken down husks of tanks from years past, as well as a few buildings for vehicle repairs. There's also a familiar looking interior area where it appears infantry will be the focus of engagements. Time will tell how this new field of battle will flow for our boots on the ground. Hourglass, the worst deployment your CO has ever had the displeasure of engaging in, is also changing. What has happened during this conflict to cause so many points of interest to shift for the brass remains unknown, but we will no doubt have to wait until midway through the operation until we can experience this changed battlefield. The next point I'd like to make note of is the vehicle changes we've been presented with. Right out the gate, it appears that attack helicopters now have been fitted with an anti-personnel HMG for the gunner's seat. You can see and hear that this is in fact not a 30mm cannon that we've used thus far. The next vehicle point you are sure to notice is that the brass has dug up thermal imaging equipment from decades ago to equip to the gunner seat of land vehicles. In this case, one of our main battle tanks. This has been reported to be an option to utilize if you don't feel the need for an enhanced zoom. You'll also notice in this brief moment that there seems to be stationary anti-air emplacements on this front. Whether or not we'll have the option to deploy these personally, if they simply guard our personal deployment zones, or if there are objectives to capture and turn against our enemies remains to be seen. Personally, I would prefer the third option. The next, and perhaps most prominent point of interest is the new weapons the brass is showcasing. At the very beginning, we see an anti-vehicle grenade that appears to detonate on contact, much like the thrown explosives our ancestors used on the fields of Europe during World War I. Whether these will be restricted to any specific soldier class remains to be seen, but they seem as though they will be an excellent way to dispatch a critically damaged hostile vehicle. In the same vein, we are also seeing the RPG-7 making its debut in this conflict. This equipment is almost a century old at this point, so how it took the brass this long to utilize this old tech is beyond me. The next new piece of hardware we come across is the GEW-46, or as we all know it, the G36C assault rifle. From conflicts past, this weapon has been one of very manageable recoil and an average rate of fire, so I'll be interested to see how this weapon has been updated in the decade since I've last deployed with it. The XCE bar, unlike the BAR of World War I, is a new sniper rifle being offered to our soldiers. We barely get a chance to see this weapon in action, but apparently Casper has already gotten his hands on it and he's keeping his lips sealed. And the final weapon we're able to discern from this briefing is the BFP-50. Well, I know you aren't stupid, soldiers, it's obviously the Deagle. This will be a direct competitor to the M44 revolver, no doubt having the same killing potential but a shorter range given the advantages to using a semi-automatic 50 Action Express pistol over a 6-shot 44 caliber revolver. We are also shown a number of personal customization options that each soldier can requisition after enough time is spent in the field. In all honesty, these cosmetics the brass is offering us make us look like complete jokes. I would be ashamed to go into battle wearing a bovine skull. This remains another area that I am less than interested in pursuing, but rest assured I will be taking a proper look at HQ's upcoming Battle Pass system once we enter the next phase of this operation. There are a number of quality of life changes that, while not explicitly shown in the briefing itself, are mentioned at the tail end in a summary form. We will now be able to choose who we deploy with on the battlefield, or more accurately, we'll be able to do exactly what we've been doing for the past 2 years, so whatever the brass means by squad management, they clearly don't know what the term means. You're also introduced to squad orders, which, more or less, will not affect things on the battlefield in any meaningful way. To top that off, if you look at the notations here, this feature will not be coming to us until midway through this phase of the operation. What you'll be able to fit on your vehicles will also be changing with this next phase. There was an entire breakdown provided by the brass earlier this month, so I encourage you to read that for yourself. I will provide a link to that further information in the description below this briefing. However, to summarize, the explosive cannons will no longer be mountable on transport aircraft or ground vehicles. Jeeps will get anti-air weaponry options, bolts will have their windshields reinforced to prevent the occupants from being killed by small arms fire, jets will have access to rocket pods, and the Wildcat will enter its own vehicle category. Now let me address some glaring issues with this briefing. We've known for a while that we are essentially fighting armies of clones on the battlefield. Webster McKay may very well find himself shooting himself in the face, for example. However, something that has never been shown as much in quantity in previous briefings is specific specialists being indisputably terminated. McKay takes a DXR-1 round to the chest and drops, obviously ending his life. Casper is gunned down in the interior section we see. Dozer is hit by an ATV at 50 miles per hour. Angel is stabbed and killed by Pike. Irish and Crawford are killed in a helicopter crash. Casper is seen both defending and attacking the facility wearing different uniforms. Not to mention, every sentence spouted by the specialists we know are just sound bites of previously recorded words.
Oh! Not good! Good! Enemy vehicle spotted! Light these fuckers up! Let's do it!
It seems the brass isn't even trying when it comes to these briefings and war propaganda this go-around. For shame. So, what does your CO think of this overall? The new front will hopefully be a change of pace from the rest of the fields in this conflict, but I am certain it will quickly wear on me. The vehicle changes are interesting to a degree, mostly for the stationary AA emplacements. The weapons are certainly interesting, but I would not call them a breath of fresh air. We've seen and used all these weapons in the past, barring the EXC bar. They decided to introduce two of perhaps the most generic firearms to the conflict that is already suffering from an abundance of genericity. The earnable uniform customizations are good in some instances, but then are just appalling in others. Overall, a net zero. The quality of life changes that the brass are bringing to the battlefield end up being a net negative for me. The squad management, as previously stated by HQ, is nothing that we don't already have. And the visual and audio issues of the briefing in general drag down my excitement for the next phase of this operation. Operation Flashpoint very quickly became dull and made the previous phase of this operation a chore, if nothing else. I'm saddened to report that I feel a similar emotion going into this phase. So that is all, Warriors. That concludes my review and breakdown of the latest briefing from the brass regarding Operation New Dawn. There are certainly new additions to this fight, but there is nothing here that brings me joy or anticipation. While I'm personally in a bad headspace regarding this conflict, I've looked at this briefing from a purely objective standpoint, aside from the cosmetics. My assessment is not construed by anything other than what the brass has offered us here. So, are you excited for the next phase of this operation, soldier? Has your CO completely lost his shit? Permission to speak freely is granted. So if you felt your CO did an adequate job today in this briefing, then be sure to leave me a like, super thanks, or subscription to show the brass at HQ that I can do with a larger audience. So with that, I've been your CO, Major Doodleman 149, and until next time, you are all dismissed.